What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Ring the Bell Phillies show presented by SeatGeek here on the Ring the Bell Philly Sports Network. Chris and Johnny Mack are here with you. I am back from my little hiatus, my little vacation there. Went to the All-Star game out there in Arlington, Texas. But now I'm back, and I came back to a shit show from the Philadelphia Phillies. Yes, they won the series finale against the Pittsburgh Pirates. They still dropped the series 2 out of 3. There's nothing positive that I have to say about them winning today 6-0. That's what I expected on Friday and Saturday. And that's what I expected the series before the All-Star break too. So, since June 1st, this team is 23-18. Since the London series, they are 18-17. So this is a team that, yes, holds right now as it stands, a 3-game lead, as in the best record in baseball. But I'm not trying to be overtly negative. I'm not just trying to come on here and be negative. But I believe this record, John, is very much smoke and mirrors. And, you and I talked about this. I know Jason, who, somehow is just oddly really positive just because of the record. And like I kind of said,
Well, let's talk about another team in the city whose record was like this about 6 months ago, 8 months ago.
Yeah.
And what happened then?
10-1.
They just completely fell apart.
Yeah.
This
is you're right. And, just because a team has a great record, not most of the time.
Oh, also they had what is it, the 24th easiest schedule or the 24th hardest schedule in the first half or whatever. Now they have the 7th hardest schedule or 8th hardest schedule, something like that coming up. And the rest of this month, holy shit, who they're going to be playing. I mean, it's going to be tough.
And, you have 2 injured aces. Ranger Suarez in his last 4 starts has an ERA of over 7. You have, players on this lineup that we've talked about multiple times, more than half of this batting order. Since May 20th, in 188 plate appearances, Bryson Stott is slashing 200, 261, and 259. That's
for a guy a year ago who was carrying this team at a lot of times during the season when Harper was out or struggling, or Turner was he had his struggles. Cassie was helping carry this team too, and then Schwarber had his struggles with batting average wise. He was one of the guys who was getting on base, scoring runs, and you're like, oh my god, we have a future superstar on this team. The way he was playing, and he comes in this year doing this, and you're like, was that a mirage last season where he just had a great season? Maybe he's just a 250 Gold Glove player. That's what he is, which is not bad. It's really disappointing because he's not even hitting 250 at this point. He's like, what's going on there?
Yeah, he's hitting 237 at the. I'm sorry, he was not hitting 237 at the moment. I was looking at Nick Castellanos. Nick Castellanos hitting 237. But when you look at this team, John, you can get probably the same amount of production, if not more, at second base out of Scott Kingery right now than you're getting from.
He's having a good minor early season, isn't he? Hitting like 3 over 300 in the minors.
That's what I'm saying. I'm sorry, you could get almost the same production.
Hey man, I didn't say this on air, but I said this in a text message earlier in the year. Scott Kingery might be able to help this team out at some point this year because I just thought what he was doing in the spring was he was doing well, and then he kind of carried it into it. But I just don't understand why he continually gets overlooked for call-ups. I know he's been horrible, but at this point, with how bad Pache is, how bad Witt was, I mean, Wes Wilson seems like he's been okay. I don't know. I don't think this is gonna last, but why can't this guy get at least one more chance? Maybe something just happens and he sparks him. The guy can play anywhere. He can play the outfield, can play any infield position, minus their first base. I don't know if he's ever played there at any point in his career, but I mean, he can play almost anywhere on this field. But I don't understand why he never gets a chance to get a look at. I mean, last year he got caught up for one day and then they activated somebody and took him off. But it's weird. But you're right. He could possibly be more productive in this lineup over Pache or Marsh or Wes Wilson.
I understand Christian Pache doesn't have any options left, but I can't believe they just haven't outright let this guy go. It's
it's like a
really
fear because the guy
puzzling
was
to
a
me.
top 12 prospect. He was one of
Yeah.
the big names in the Matt Olson deal. It's kind of just, they're kind of hoping he was compared to Andrew Jones, coming into
Yeah.
baseball. I mean, that's one of his comparisons too, but he just never kind of figured it out. The glove's still there. The glove's there, but the bat, he's just horrible. And I mean, you're right. I mean, at this point, it's like Sosa's start. I mean, no, he's not a superstar or anything, but he's been far more productive than any guy from 6 on down. He's been
Yeah.
far all season long. So it's like, but where do you put him? You can't, do you really
Mhm.
want to bench Stott? You really can't. I mean, because
Right.
he's a guy you have a lot of hope in. But
Mhm.
then March, like, has he really played the outfield? So not really. Is like what 8 career games there? Not many
Yep.
innings. Some are just like really quick spot innings, like an extra innings or late in games where they're just trying to get them in at bat to hopefully score a run. But there's just not much didn't play much in the outfield. So it's like, where do you get this guy in the lineup who's been productive when he's played?
No, I agree. I mean, and that, and this kind of goes back to where they are with Bryson Stott. They're basically, he was benched again today. They're at a point now where they're quietly platooning second base.
But it's
They're
like,
quiet, but they're kind of
why is it always with lefties? He's a better hitter against lefties, which is one thing I've always wondered. Like, if you're going to platoon a guy, the guy's worse against righties for his career. I haven't looked in a while this year because
I'm
he's
gonna
just been
look
so
now.
bad. I just don't feel like even looking at what he's doing righty versus lefties. But for for a career, he's been generally better versus lefties. So it's like, why are you platooning him against righties when he's a
So
better?
this season it's pretty even. Versus right-handed pitchers, he's hitting 235. Versus lefties, he's hitting 238. And his on base percentage this year against lefties is 30 points higher than against righties. So you are right. It's puzzling why he's not playing. We understand why Marsh doesn't play against lefties. He
Because the guy
legitimately,
hits like 150 and the guy hits
yeah, he
300 versus
legit can't hit.
righties.
Right. So this is becoming real puzzling to me. The Bryson Stott situation, Brandon March, Christian Pache getting these starts. And that brings us, to the trade deadline, which is 9 days away, John. And
And they're quiet right now. It's like you're not getting
it's,
many reports. Because like
I'll
earlier in the
tell
year,
you
you were
what,
getting a ton of reports. It was like, oh, they're interested in Pham, they're interested in Chisholm, they're interested in Robert, they're interested in Rooker, this guy, the next guy, and then all of a sudden, like now it's like each guy's getting, oh, not interested, not interested, not interested.
I
Rooker's not a
really,
fit, Chachas have
I,
no interest at all. Like, Tommy Pham, no, like now it's like, what's going on here now?
yeah, my view on the trade deadline this year is there's going to be a lot of wait and see teams. I think teams are going to wait and see who the first domino is that's going to drop, and then teams are going to start making a move. It's not going to be like something where tomorrow or Tuesday there's going to be this big move. I think it's going to be one of those old school trade deadline days where on that day, on the 30th, it's going to be the Wild Wild West.
And then
And
I
but that
was
could
thinking
but
too,
that could benefit the Phillies.
it could because I mean, the White Sox already said they already put it out there. They want a Juan Soto haul for Robert, which you can't. The guys, that's why like I'm for it, but like I'm against it too because I don't want to give him a Juan Soto for a guy who doesn't play that much. But at this point, like, what options do the Phillies have at this point? But to like try to at least get this guy, like not giving up Painter and Abel, even though you might have not Painter and Abel, Painter and Miller. Like at this point, like you might have to. But like that, you're right. This could benefit the Phillies where they see maybe a Vlad gets traded, only gets traded to like the Astros, and the Astros don't have many top 100 prospects, so it's not going to be a big haul for him. And then he's like that, who's healthy, who's productive, who can hit 30 home runs, hit 300, driving a bunch of runs. He doesn't go for a lot. Then the White Sox are like, oh, we might have to take what we can get, or they can just then, you know what, we'll just settle with hold Robert because he's a bat, and hopefully we can build something going on there. But
Right.
you're right, it's a weird deadline. Even the Washington Nationals, when they traded that one bullpen, I'm afraid his name, he went for what a top 5 prospect in that farm, so whatever farm system was the Royals he went to, the top 5
Yep.
prospect in the Royals farm system. So
Yep.
like that's just for a relief pitcher. Imagine with these everyday players, superstars, and Crochet. What is he going to go for at that point? This guy's going for a top 5 prospect.
Mhm.
What is Crochet going to go for? He's been an absolute stud this year. Going to be a Cy Young, running in the Cy Young this year. It's going to be. You're right. It's interesting to see what they're going to do.
It's very interesting, and I know you're from the standpoint of where the team is right now. Luis Robert, obviously, he fits the bill of what
He's
you're.
exactly what they need. He's just
Yeah,
never healthy. That's the issue. But
that's the problem. Yeah.
is the gamble going to be worth it where, he's 25 at this point, 26,
No, he'll be 27 in 10 days.
27, and he's still relatively young. He's under control for what, 2 to 3 more years, I
Yeah.
think. So is it worth the gamble at that point to say, you know what, maybe we get him, we win a World Series, maybe his luck turns around and he can stay healthy on this club. Different training staff, different workout programs. He meets different people and they do different things in the offseason to stay healthy, keep their body rejoicing, stuff like that. So maybe that's where the luck can kind of switch, because you've seen it happen like throughout baseball where a guy's just injury prone and then all of a sudden he moves to another team and he's perfectly fine, or you see a top prospect get moved to a different organization. He becomes a superstar but he wasn't performing at that other organization. Things can just change just by the organization when they approach things, just to try to keep their players healthy. Everybody does things there. Each organization does things differently. You can look at the Angels. Pitchers are superstars, at other places. They go to the Angels and they absolutely stink. CJ Wilson's one of them. Tyler Anderson's having a bounce back year, but he was god awful last year. There's other guys,
Yeah.
that they went out there and they try to sign to, help get Trout to the playoffs, and they just, whatever goes on there, that's like a death trap for pitchers. You just lose everything and you stink. It's different organizations do different things. So that's why I'm for it at this point, because he's exactly what they need. He's the best available. He's the only center fielder I've really, besides Tommy Pham, who's played center field this year when Robert's been hurt, but he's not really a center fielder. And Chisholm, they have no interest in, which he's probably going to end up being a Yankee. Wouldn't surprise me at all.
Right.
At this point, but you're right. You are completely right in that. Like, what they do, I don't know. What do you think they do? Like, what?
So I do think they end up with Robert. I really do. My issue is, what is it going to take? And not in terms of what's it going to take. It's what is Dombrowski willing to get rid of? You know what I mean? For the longest time, we've talked about this before. This is a general manager who is known for trading prospects to get players, to get, good players. He has not done that yet at all with the Phillies. Is this the time that he is going to send pretty good prospects in this organization for a guy hitting 237 to win right now?
It is the
What?
time. It 100% is the time. But the problem is, and I've said it before, and I was just like putting him there as a theory, and it's still kind of a theory. I thought Middleton was kind of like holding back and saying, please don't trade the farm away yet, because I want to build something here for long term. And I kind of just thought that's how it was, why he's never made a move. Because even when they had just Payne or Abel, that could bring back a good return. Like when other pitchers were on the market, when they needed another arm or stuff like that, and they just never made those moves. And now it kind of seems like where Middleton has come out and said, I want long-term success. I want this organization to be successful year in and year out. And I just have that feeling that he's kind of like, please don't do this until, like, we're getting a guaranteed superstar and he's young enough. It's at that point, like the Dodgers do. The Dodgers will do it when they're young, but they're also so good at developing players that they can just keep reloading that farm system, which the Phillies have not had the success until Dombrowski got here. So maybe he wants Dombrowski to build this farm system up to maybe a top 10. They're at 15. The draft, they were at 15. They're the 15th best performances. Maybe let's get them to the top 10, top 5, where you can say, all right, our farm system's getting good. We have some really good guys where before, when, 2 years ago when they're making deals, they're trading their best prospects for guys, and these guys are the 5th best prospect in most organizations, or they're the 10th best prospect in organizations, where now you're starting to get guys. You have 6 guys in the top, 5 guys in the top 100 now. It seems like that's like where he's like, he wants to build this. He wants to be like a Dodgers or a Yankees organization where they just make the playoffs and win the division every single year in, year out, because they're so good at developing. Or you can say the Braves too. They're monsters at doing it. The Rays have been monsters at doing it. They're kind of falling off now because their philosophy really hasn't worked out, because you do have to spend the money like the Dodgers do. You do have to spend the money like the Yankees do at times. I know it's not like when who was there? George was there when he would just develop a prospect, and he'll develop the prospect and spend as much money as he wants on players. Like, he didn't care at all. It's not like that anymore with Hale. And then you can even look at the Red Sox. Why aren't the Red Sox doing this? It's like the 3rd most profitable organization in baseball, and they're like, nah, we don't want to spend money anymore. It's weird. It's weird, but they have some prospects coming up, so they might be buyers at the deadline too. They have 3 top 25 guys who look like to be good, and look like they're going to be in the running to make a good push in the postseason.
For sure. So that's what I'm going to ask you now. If you are getting a Luis Robert Jr., which is filling a big need, as long as he's healthy, he is a significant upgrade to any center fielder the Phillies put out
The guy can
there.
hit 250. The guy can hit 250 and hit 30 home runs. Like that's and play Gold Glove
I think
defense.
he can hit better than
You're
250,
right,
actually.
but like that's what I'm
Yeah,
gonna go based on. Like that's like
right,
that's better
right,
than
right,
what they're
right.
getting.
Agreed.
That's
Right,
phenomenal. You know what he would be doing there.
correct, and I agree. So, what are you willing to give up for him, and what do you think is going to be like? What's the logical you think trade that happens, and compared to what you would give up?
I think it would cost like 4 to 5 prospects, but I wouldn't be willing to give up Painter or Miller because the fact that the injury thing's there. And also, like I've said to you guys, I believe the Astros are fully in at this point because now they're in the lead they're in the lead to the division. They just lost, so they're tied now again, but they're
Mhm.
now in the running, and they look like the same Houston Astros team that just had a bad, April and May.
Yeah,
Like the
their
Phillies have had it.
pitching has come around, their
Yeah,
offense has come around.
They
Yeah,
still have McCullers at some point coming back this season. They're probably going to go out and bring some guys in at this point to make them better. But I look at it as Tucker could possibly be available in the offseason, and I think with what they did in the draft, they could possibly get Tucker in the offseason for Painter and Miller. And I
yeah.
rather what if you can get both those guys next year? You have Painter and Miller gone, and you have your left fielder, and you give up March too, and your left fielder's Tucker, or your center field or right fielder's Tucker. You put Castine left, and you have Robert in center field. That's a lineup that's going to compete with a Dodgers team who's going to be even better next year when they get fully healthy. When they're fully healthy, they're going to be even better next year. So that's like my standpoint why I don't want to get rid of them yet because I do think Tucker is not going to be there long term.
So, do you believe in right now in your heart of hearts that by July 30th, Robert is going to be the starting center fielder for the Phillies?
Yes, and if he's not, I believe he will be on the Atlanta Braves. So it's kind of like you have to go after
You
him,
got to beat them to it.
or he could be on the Dodgers too. Like they could just do a crochet and they get rid of Pajes and a Vargas when Mookie Betts comes back. From when Mookie Betts comes back, and you give up those two guys, and you get rid of your entire farm system pretty much for those two guys, which they can do.
Yeah.
And it's going to be the top teams. I don't see the Mariners going after Luis Robert. That's out of the question. I don't see the Mets could have an outside. The Mets have a pretty decent farm. The Mets could be an outside chance too, and they'll be willing to play them and make that risk because Cohen wants to win more than probably any manager in baseball. He's just completely unsuccessful at how he runs that team.
Yeah.
It's you're gonna have to you're gonna have to beat somebody too because he's gonna go somewhere and it could be to a team in the NL and I doubt they want to trade him anywhere in the AL to come back to haunt him in the future.
Right. All right. So let's kind of talk about a couple things here. So this upcoming week, you're going to have Ranger Suarez, Zach Wheeler, and Aaron Nola on the hill as they head to Minnesota here. Minnesota will be without Carlos Correa. He was placed on the IL.
And Miranda too is still on
Yep.
the IL.
Yep.
And Royce is on the IL. So their lineup's not full strength. And
Right.
their pitching staff's not great. They're mediocre.
Right. And based on what we've seen lately out of Wheeler and Ranger, especially Ranger right now, what's your concern level for Ranger?
Ranger I'm really not worried about Wheeler because we know the guy's a stud and he's been phenomenal since he's been here. Nothing more we can ask. We wish he could have got a Cy Young at some point, but it's just some guys just have better years than our guys. It just happens, but he's been phenomenal. Ranger's the guy where we've all season sat here along and said, can this guy do it for a full season? Because he's never been a starter for a full season. There's always been the visa issue the 1 year, the injury because of the World Baseball Classic, him being in the bullpen for majority of the season, then becoming a starter, and he's never been here for a full season. It's can he do it? And back starts flaring up. Now you're like, oh, how's that going to handle the rest of the year? He's kind of stunk his last 5 starts, I would say 4 or 5 starts. He hasn't really been great. He's not going as deep as he was. He's not striking as many guys. He's giving up more runs. He's giving up more hits, which for a guy who had one of the lowest batting averages for a pitcher in baseball, it's very I'm extremely concerned because we're sitting here like, let's go. We finally found a diamond in the rough guy that nobody thought was going to be anything in this league, and now he's going to be a Cy Young winner and possibly a future, superstar in this league. And then the wheels just kind of turned off, once the middle of June came around.
So moving forward now, we're seeing a great turnaround out of guys like Nick Castellanos.
Sorry, Jason, you're right. We should have.
Yeah, Jason's been pretty spot on
Because
over
he's
the
hit
last
300 his last 30 days. 308. Oh, I had it written down. Let me see what it was.
Well, his last 22 games, he's hitting 280 with a 341 on base percentage, which is really good for him.
That's good. That's good. He's hitting 302, 349, 517, which that's what we really expected out of the guy when we signed him. So he's been very productive. The power numbers are still not there. He only has 5 home runs in his last 30 games, but he's productive. He's driving runs and 21 RBIs in 30 days is extremely good. He's being productive in the lineup now, but they're struggling for so much. I mean, the guy was hitting 180. Now he's at 239. Probably if he continues on this pace, he'll be over 250 by the end of the season. And really for your 5th best player, it's pretty good.
Yeah. I'll tell you what though, and again, even guys like Trey Turner has just I mean, you sometimes get scared when you go into the All-Star break with a guy as hot as he was. And then he comes out of that All-Star break. He's still as hot as ever. I mean, his last, over 20 games, he's hitting 345. He's unbelievable. And you and I talked about this. If the dude doesn't miss 6 weeks, he's probably up for the MVP.
And honestly, they get hot and they keep scoring runs and they're batting that lineup going around and around and around, he might be able to get to that 501 mark and possibly get some votes. But again, guy in Los Angeles is just on another planet right now.
He really is.
But the one thing, and I know I keep saying it because it sucks because Harper's having an MVP season, it's really hard to win an MVP as a DH.
It is.
It's really hard. So, some guys are just going to be like, oh, he doesn't play the field at all. And they're going to be like, Harper's a Gold Glove first baseman. I'm going to vote for this guy over Ohtani for my first place, but put Ohtani second. So there's still that possibility that Harper could win it. But you're right. He's been tremendous. This is a guy we signed a year and a half ago, and he wasn't that until August last year. But now he's there. Now keep it rolling. And
in the last 12 games that Harper's been back, everyone, he's slashing. This is what he's slashing right now. 326, 415, 720, 1133. That's what Bryce Harper has done since coming back from the injury that we were all worried about him coming back too early for. John,
I just thought the All-Star break was coming up. Let's let the guys rest up.
I agree. But do you think now we can safely say a dude like Harper, he's not going to come back if he's not ready?
No, because that guy loves playing baseball, man. I think he's one of those guys. He's just hamstrings is one of the weird things, and probably he's relatively 100%, 95 to 100%. But if the guy was 75%, his hamstring was bothering him. If he's playing in the playoffs, there's no good fans but the guy's playing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
he's probably not on the IL. He probably has to go to the IL at all if it's the middle of the playoffs.
Yeah.
He'll risk tearing that whole thing off the bone before he goes on that IL to try to win this team a World Series.
Yeah, I know. So here, I kind of now want to dive into what I'm really worried about moving forward. And we kind of just touched upon it with Dombrowski and the trade deadline. Look, look, as much as we mess around or sometimes have pretty serious, back and forths of criticizing each other and, slap ass in and all that stuff on our text thread. When you first got on here and we talked about this last offseason, we were all concerned about the lack of moves that Dombrowski and this team, you just lost games 6 and 7 at home in the NLCS against the Arizona Diamondbacks. And we all thought, all right, well, we didn't get there. So something's got to be done here. Upgrades need to happen. There weren't any upgrades.
But just give Jason would say they signed with Merrifield thinking that it didn't work out. So it didn't work out. So they didn't really upgrade the team at all.
Right.
They thought it was going to work. It did not work. So they did not upgrade the team. At this point in time, they are not better.
So regardless of what Jason says, if he's watching right now or if he will watch, he was on board with me for the most part when we both said and agreed with Dombrowski when Dombrowski said, what kind of move are you going to make? This team is already built for a World Series now. It's a bad free agent pool, which it really was. Don't spend the money. Wait a little bit, and you have a team all healthy, all in that can win right now. Fast forward, yes, this is the best team in baseball record-wise, but they have a bottom half of a batting lineup that's a hodgepodge of players that play one day, they don't play the next. This is not a team with 9 starters. This is a team that right now, again, since June, we're going into August in a week and a half. All right, this isn't May going into June. We're getting into today was the 100th game of the season.
Somebody said on June 1st on MLB Network, I forget who it was. When June rolls around, you see who is for real and who's not for real.
Right.
You saw a bunch of teams fall off. The Tigers were around 500; they fell off. You see a bunch of teams fall off. The Phillies fell off because they're an average baseball team at this point. Their record says they're an average baseball team. Once June rolled around, once they started playing better teams, they played Boston, they played the Orioles, they got beat up by them. Now they beat the Dodgers. But listen, the Dodgers are missing 5 studs as starters. They're missing Mookie Betts and Max Muncy. Even though that lineup's still dangerous, they're missing a lot of firepower that they can bring. They can bring into this thing, and they're still a good baseball team with those guys being out. But it's not the same team. I would like to see them fully healthy play the Phillies. That'd be a very interesting series because I think the Phillies can match up well against them. But it's just they're still a really good baseball team that is very injured right now. And then they could play the Braves again, and the Braves kick their ass once again. So when they may have a winning record against 500 teams, but the teams that are you would consider legit World Series contenders, they're not playing well against.
Right, and like I was just trying to say is, we're a week and a half away from August. Today was the 100th game of the season. You have less games. You have more games behind you than you do ahead of you.
It was the 100th game of the season.
100th game of the season. So when you look at this team since June 1st, we're gonna have to harp on it. They're barely above a 500 team. Luckily for them, and I don't want to say necessarily luckily, but you're still 8.5 games up over the Braves because since June 1st, the Braves are 22-20. So, and they just keep suffering injury after injury after injury. So again, the Phillies things are falling in their favor these first 90 to 95 games,
which I'm grateful for too, because the Phillies never get this love. They never get this love. They never,
for sure.
It's usually them who are falling up. They fell apart, but for some reason these guys were productive when some of our guys got hurt. But then when you put them in the regular bench, they blow.
Right, and I want to be clear. I'm not complaining about it. My problem is now we're getting to the final 60 games of the season. And it looks like some certain things are kind of falling apart. Again, your top 2 pitchers are hurt. We don't know how hurt they are. They're going to pitch this week.
It's on MLB Network right now. They have 8 starters hurt.
Oh, that's it's insane.
The Dodgers.
Yeah. So my worry is with Dombrowski, is he has yet to really make a real impactful trade for this team since joining them. He's spent a lot of money on free agency, which is great. That's fine. It's all well and good. But, we're talking about a team that doesn't have an everyday second baseman, doesn't have an everyday center fielder, doesn't have an everyday left fielder. And this is
all the teams who win the World Series. They do something huge at the deadline. The Rangers, they got Max Scherzer, they got Jordan Montgomery. What other teams are out, have made big moves? Even not big, but they trade for Tommy Pham, who apparently was great in their club, great to come in.
Arizona.
Arizona, lead them, give that team some confidence and lead them. Every team, who else? Did Houston make a big move when they won it? I can't remember it against the Phillies.
Can't recall. I'll have to go check to see if they made a big move. But nonetheless, this is a team that we've talked about has major holes. They're an average baseball team since the beginning of June. Are you worried at all, or do you have trust that Dombrowski is the guy to make the necessary decisions and moves moving forward? There's a problem. We got a problem with Alvarado right now.
Who's trust the guy? Because
of course.
He has the track record. He goes to World Series wherever he's been. He's won multiple World Series, I believe multiple, but he's been there 5, 6, 7 times. He's been there a ton of times. He has the track record. He has the track record of making big moves and doing things to make these teams ready for the postseason. So I want to believe he's going to do something. And then you bring up Alvarado. I mean, like I said in the offseason, the bullpen was not upgraded. I said it from day
Not at
one,
all.
and I said Kimbrel. Well, look at Craig Kimbrel has 23 saves and 3 ERA. He's pitching pretty good. That's a big. As anybody, he may suck it up in the postseason, but the guy was a pretty good pitcher for them most of the year. And you lost him, and you didn't replace him, and and you lost Lorenzen. You didn't. He sucked, but you didn't really replace him. And thank God, Strom's been unbelievable this year.
Yeah, I
And thank
think
God
that was
that
their
was the
thought process.
that was the thing, but like you still need to add somebody because now they're at the point where it's like, what are you going to get from Alvarado? Because his whole career he's either a superstar or he's absolutely god awful. Same thing with Soto. He's either a superstar or god awful. Same thing with Sir Anthony, superstar or god awful. There's no in between those guys. And even Hoffman, before last year, he was an absolute horrible pitcher. He was out of baseball. The Phillies took a shot on him, giving him a minor league contract. Who knows what he's going to be the rest of this season or next season when he gets his huge deal from somewhere else that he's probably going to get. And same thing with Strom. Strom's been an average pitcher, ups and downs throughout his career. He kind of stunk it up last year, but he bounced back this year. They were relying on Kirkring, who's been very, very good for them. The problem with Kirkring is he can't pitch 2 days in a row yet. He doesn't have that stamina yet to go 2 days in a row. And I think they were banking on him being a nut guy, but it hasn't been. There's not a lot of faith in that bullpen outside of really three guys, and one of them you have to make sure he has at least a day's rest before you pitch him again.
Yeah, so I think going into the offseason, the reason why I think they didn't upgrade the bullpen is I absolutely believe that they looked at Hoffman, a full season of Hoffman and a full season of Kerkering as an upgrade. And again, you can't, when you're building a World Series team, like you and I have talked about many times, you can't just assume that things are going to work like that in-house. Luckily for Strom and
You
Hoffman,
always want to
it
get better
did.
every single day. That's
Right,
the thing.
especially
And
bullpen.
like that, see the Phillies. Remember, was it a month ago? They started putting they put articles written out by somebody, and it was like the Phillies have changed the way people think about bullpens. They don't have that everyday closer, and they kind of just go out and find these little like diamonds in the rough. Well, yeah, they work sometimes, and sometimes they don't work. Because look at Alvarado, look at Soto right now, look at Sir Anthony. They're not really working out like that article was mentioning.
Yeah, right. So this is my worry is as we get to the 30th year, is it going to be the same thing as last season where Dombrowski is, I don't want to say blinded, but he's got those Phillies red colored glasses on where, well, by that time we could have 66, 67 wins. We're going to ride this out. I think it's very obvious, John, and I'm sure to Dombrowski, he's a baseball guy. It has to be obvious to him. Shit needs to change a little bit around here. And I think even as I'm talking, I'm coming around more to Robert.
Hurting people's feelings. Things need to change. You're right.
I agree with
and
you.
That's a part of the problem with Phillies, and I always forget to bring this up.
Loyalty.
They're so loyal to these guys.
Yes.
The team's so loyal to each other. But you could even, who mentioned it? Oh, your boy that you're not really the biggest fan of, Ben Verlander mentioned it, and it's actually a great point.
He's a Phillies guy. I have to admit that. He loves the Phillies.
He said every single All-Star that was at that Phillies game stayed until Alec Boehm was out, and they were cheering him on, and you could just see the connection that everybody had. They had to be around, just their guys. And then you look at Teoscar Hernandez. Tyler Glasnow was the only All-Star that stayed around to celebrate with him.
Yeah.
Not many teams had that, and that's why Stubbs is here. Stubbs really isn't really do much, but the guy is a glue guy. They love him. He loves the team. He's there to pick you up when you're down. He's there to hype you up in the dugout. He's there to celebrate when you win. He's there to, he's a lead. He's a bench leader. He's a leader of that. He's a leader on that team, but he's not a superstar. He's not one of those players. And the same thing with Marsh. Marsh is that way too. And it's like, you don't want to get rid of a guy like Marsh. That's why you have to platoon him. You have to get somebody who can platoon with him because the guy is so much fun and he's so excited to be here. He loves the team. He loves the city. And those guys are, and that's what the problem is. They have so many guys like that it's so hard to make a move because they could be like, a team could be like, I want Marsh.
Right.
Because they want to keep him and build that same culture here. And they're like, I'm not giving you Marsh because we want him here for that reason.
Exactly. So, now this goes back to our question. So as we've talked this out, trade deadline coming up, as much as we might not like what Luis Robert's doing right this second, culture, and scenery changes for players, they do work. It's a real
He looks
thing.
like he's a fun guy to be around too, but he's not getting that in Chicago because there's
Are
nothing for him to be excited about.
there's
He
nothing
looks
there.
because remember when the White Sox were a little bit good, that team was exciting to watch a few years ago when they had when Tim Anderson was playing well, when Eloy Menace was playing well, and Jose Abreu was there. You had that leader on the team, and then Robert's there. You had all those guys there. They were an exciting team to watch, and you could see the excitement from Robert. But now you're there losing over and over. We're the worst team in baseball. You're having no fun. Then when you get injured, you're like, I'm just gonna wait till I'm fully healthy and come back. I'm not gonna risk, or go. You get injured, but you don't go all out. Sometimes, I'm not gonna
Right.
go all out for when we're not having fun. When it's not fun, you bring him here and you change him, bring him to this culture. It might be a completely different experience for him.
So are you worried right now? Because I am, that maybe the management of the Phillies and those who make the decisions are so worried about rocking that apple cart of the chemistry in that locker room at the expense of really going all in to win a World Series.
Yeah, and even Rojas, did you see what Rojas said like a couple weeks ago or last week about when the Phillies beat the Dodgers? Like nobody's coming in here, but like he's 100% bought it. You want to get rid of another guy like that who's just well, it seems like he's loved by his teammates too. It's
Yeah.
hard. He loves being there. He's like nobody's coming in here and beating us. Like we were ready to play at all costs. He's not even having success, and he's like that. It's definitely a big factor because. I mean, we'll talk about in the offseason things shit hits the fan. I mean,
Yeah.
Schwarber's a guy like that too. Like he's going to be at an all-time value at the end of the season this year, and it's going to be like, do you really want to get rid of a huge leader and a guy who's exciting and the fans love, the locker room loves, and it seems like he's the guy everybody wants to go out and drink with after the game, after a win and stuff like that too. So it's question, are they too loyal to their guys, which it's in a day and age where everybody's so loyal, and the Phillies do it better than anybody else because these guys want to play for this team in this city. But sometimes it's a business, and you make business decisions and make the correct choice. And sometimes Marsh might be it, Rojas might be it, Stubbs might have to go for a backup catcher for a guy like JT who's getting older. Like I don't understand why Marchand was sent down. I don't get it. And then you have a Topper saying he needs to play every day. Why wasn't he playing every day when he was up here then if he needs to play every day? Can you explain those things? Like, why are you so loyal to Garrett Stubbs? And it's why, because he's the glue guy. That's why they're so loyal to him. They don't want to, they don't want to rock, hurt anybody's feelings.
Yeah. Well, I don't care about feelings. I care about winning because that's actually your job. Your job is to provide a winner. And, you're going to hurt. It's a business. People are great at their jobs every day and they still get let go. It's just the way it is. And I'm not trying to be cold or callous or heartless about it. I love Garrett Stubbs, but Marchand was clearly the guy that who should have stayed up over him.
And we met Garrett Stubbs and we talked to him. We did a podcast. He'd be like, I want to come on and talk to you guys about the Phillies and talk about the city. Like he'd be like, he's a guy you want on the team, but at this but he's just not that great of a baseball player. And it's not being mean. I'm just saying, and he knows it. I mean, he even said he's just grateful that he's played this long. He wants to play 10 years in this league. He's grateful. He never thought he would be here this long.
Right. Well, as we get closer to the deadline, of course, we'll be on here probably live for a little bit as the deadline comes to an end, probably around 4 p.m. that afternoon on the 30th. We'll be on here. But this week, John, as we wrap up here, 3 against the Twins in Minnesota. Then you come home for 3 against the Cleveland Guardians before playing the Yankees the next week. But what are you looking at this week for this 6-game set against the American League out here? 3 against the Twins, 3 against the Guardians.
I want to say 4-2, but I think 3-3.
Okay, I was sitting at 4-2.
I think they're better than both teams. I just don't know what's going to happen in that Cleveland series. I think they win the Minnesota series, 2-1. I don't know what's going to happen in that Cleveland series because they have to score runs, and if they get a lead if that team has a lead late in the game, I don't think you're going to score off that bullpen. That bullpen is a pretty good bullpen.
Mm-hmm. I agree. So yeah, I'm going 4-2. I'm going to be immensely paying attention to the first 2 games of this series, which is Rangers start and Zach Wheeler start. So that's going to be something I think all Phillies fans should be heavily, really
I think they're
lasered in
fine.
on.
I think they're
We'll
fine
see.
because if there wasn't
Ranger, I'm worried about because, again, Wheeler hasn't looked bad. He just had that back. I mean, he got hurt on a game where he was lights out.
and it was more precaution. It's more
Right.
precautionary. They said
Ranger has been bad for a month. So
yes.
that's my worry here.
That week could have been good for him to rest up that arm. So hopefully
Yeah.
we'll shoot on that. That he need that week break that a lot of people need in this league, and he'll be fine. I think.
I agree. I hope so for
And
sure.
hopefully they have
All
a
right.
great lead in the division in September, and you can rest. Ranger can pitch 5 innings the rest of September. You know, just keep him fresh and loose for the playoffs, and where he can go 6-7 innings. You know, hopefully that's the best case scenario. I think that you're right. Let's wait till Monday. Let's see what he does. And then maybe we'll be really negative about him on Sunday. Or maybe we'll be really ecstatic about him on Saturday.
Yeah, totally agree. All right, if you guys are watching this on YouTube, which most of you do, thank you so much. Like this video, subscribe to our channel, and as always, ring that bell for notifications on when we're going to go live again. Again, thank you so much to SeatGeek. Head over to SeatGeek.com right now and use our code Ring the Bell for $20 off your very first ticket purchase. Again, we'll be back here next Sunday to recap this upcoming week. Hopefully it's a big week for the Phils. Get this offense back on track. Get that starting rotation back to what, really carried this team the first half of the year. We're down to the final 62 here, ladies and gentlemen. So trade deadline coming up. It all gets real serious from this
41.
point on.
I just saw the 41 and 31. Nice.
Yeah.
The Mariners.
Yeah. They blew a 10-game division lead in 24
Dude, the Rangers
days.
still 5 games out, and they've been hurting and horrible all year long.
John, thank you so much for joining tonight. We'll be back here next Sunday. Thank you guys so very much for checking in. Hopefully you guys like this video. I'm Chrissy Francesco, and we'll catch you guys down the road. Have a great rest of your weekend and week. And as always, go Phils.